Let's go ahead and get started. Our top story today. President Trump heads back to New Jersey following his brief stay at Trump Tower in New York City. The president held a combative news conference from there Tuesday, once again blaming both sides for the race-fueled violence over the weekend. Democrats and even some Republicans, including Senator John McCain, quickly condemned the remarks. A memorial service is scheduled in Charlottesville, Virginia today for the woman killed when a car rammed into a group of counter-protesters on Saturday. Heather Heyer's family says she died fighting for what she believed in. Her service takes place at the city's Paramount Theater. Former President Obama's tweet on the violence is now the most liked tweet in history. Mr. Obama posted this image of himself greeting babies of different races, along with a quote from Nelson Mandela. The tweet has since been liked more than 3 million times. And 40 years ago today, the man known to many as the king of rock and roll died. Elvis Presley's untimely death was a tragedy for his millions of fans, and every year, thousands descend on the singer's home to light candles and mourn. Elvis remains the best-selling solo artist of all time. Turning to Crime Watch, 2 people were injured in a late-night altercation that broke out at Montana Fair. The Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office was called to the fairgrounds around 11:30 last night, where 2 males suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Several witnesses were interviewed by law enforcement. They say roughly 24 teens gathered near the Heritage Building, and at least 1 knife was used in the confrontation. Officers were seen retrieving evidence from the roof of the building. Information on exactly what happened hasn't been released. While no arrests were made, 1 male was placed in handcuffs. Under Sheriff Kevin Evans said fights are occasionally reported at the fair, but the use of a weapon is unusual. Turning to court news, a Billings man accused of killing an infant in June denies the charge during his first court appearance. 30-year-old Jason Badger entered a plea of not guilty in Yellowstone County District Court on Tuesday to the charge of deliberate homicide. Badger is accused of killing 6-month-old Christopher Hackerott. Badger was reportedly babysitting the boy the night before his death. Prosecutors say while Hackerott's mother was away at work, Badger dropped or threw the baby, causing serious injury. Badger said he was bouncing the boy at the Lockwood area home and accidentally dropped the baby. Badger did not seek medical help, even though he admitted Hackerott's breathing became labored and the baby did not wake up from his nap. The boy's mother realized he was dead the next morning. The judge maintained Badger's bond at $100,000. Elsewhere, a federal judge halted expansion plans at the Signal Peak coal mine near Roundup. The company was on track to expand its Bull Mountain mine, but a federal judge says those plans were approved improperly. In his ruling, Judge Donald Malloy found that the Federal Office of Surface Mining failed to take a hard look at the public health and environmental impacts as required by law. Malloy said the federal agency ignored harm to communities and the environment. The mine's expansion included 176 million tons of coal, which would have made the Bull Mountain mine the largest underground coal mine in the nation based on production. Malloy's ruling came in a lawsuit filed by the Montana Environmental Information Center, the Sierra Club, and the Montana Elders for a Livable Tomorrow.
The federal government was very willing to consider all of the benefits of the expansion, but failed to analyze the really significant costs associated with that expansion, and that's not the way the law works. You have to do both. If you want to look at the benefits, you have to look at the costs as well.
The mine is fully operational at this time. Depending on a number of factors, this court decision could affect some operations in the future. There is currently no impact on any jobs at the mine.
The mine currently employs 252 full-time workers. Dawson says in the coming weeks and months, Signal Peak will evaluate all of its options. Hedges says this week's federal court ruling is long overdue and follows a similar ruling last year by a state oversight board that found Montana failed to protect water quality in the area. Meanwhile, a member of Governor Steve Bullock's cabinet is resigning. Labor Commissioner Pam Busey made the announcement on Tuesday. She's stepping down after more than 4 years on the job. The Labor Commissioner oversees the State Department of Labor and Industry and is appointed by the governor. Bullock says Busey has been a driving force in the state, university system, and private sector to create a skilled workforce for Montana. She says she is returning to the private sector to practice law. Now we go to Boulder, where Governor Steve Bullock took part in a national initiative as he and 7 fellow governors took time to meet directly with people involved in their respective correctional systems. Bullock toured the Riverside Correctional Facility on Tuesday and met with staff and residents of the program. The privately run Riverside facility offers a 3 to 4 month treatment program for women. Its goal is to help them understand and overcome severe trauma they've faced in their lives. Women offenders apply for the program with the help from their probation officer, usually after having problems while on probation or other programs. Those involved in the program gave positive feedback.
People to feel the energy that I've gotten, you know, to feel the compassion that I've gotten. I mean, the other places I've been, you know, they put you in your room and you stay in your room, and if you cry all night, you know, I mean, those kind of things, and it's not helpful, it's not a healing process.
This program has really shed some light on the things that I went through. I think that programs like this should be in every institution, really, because, I mean, you have some programs, but nothing that even comes close to the treatment that I got here.
Bullock's visit was part of the face-to-face initiative by the Council of State Governments and several national correctional groups. Now we go to Bozeman, where the city will be home to the up-and-coming Holocaust Museum of Montana. The museum will feature images and exhibits depicting the Holocaust. There will also be an education center to spread the message of tolerance and love.
Just kind of remembering the past, but using that knowledge and that history to kind of propel the next generation into the future and learn and grow and just teach tolerance, inclusion, love, communication, all the things that the world needs.
The land for the museum has been purchased through the Bozeman Jewish Community Center. The next step will be raising the necessary funds for the building, mainly through donations. Well, with the first day of school right around the corner, more than 800 local students will pick up a backpack stuffed with school supplies. Teaming up with Spectrum Communications, the Washington Foundation, and Salvation Army, Synex Zip Trip collected more than $25,000 in donations to make it all happen.
We never shut this down, we keep a reserve of so many backpacks so that through the year, if somebody comes in, you know, they're traveling from a different area and they may need more supplies or they don't have any school supplies, then we can get them a backpack. So we'll do some throughout the year. Last year we did about 300 throughout the year.
The Salvation Army will give out backpacks and other supplies at North Park on Saturday and throughout the week at Montana Fair's Salvation Army booth. Wrapping up our news for this Wednesday, as many as 350,000 people will descend upon Wyoming for next week's solar eclipse. With lodging prices tripled and in some cases 10 times the cost of a usual night's stay, many have turned to Airbnb, allowing residents to rent out rooms to travelers. Nearly 4,000 guest arrivals have been booked for the eclipse through the service. It's estimated those in the path of the eclipse will earn $1 million that night. Sales taxes will be collected from the rental properties and forwarded to the state. It's a 4% tax that local communities will feel this fall.
Well, I can tell you that I know some of the local governments are very excited about it, but, you know, and anxious as well. You just don't know what the unknown's going to bring. We believe we will see an increase in revenue because we weren't confident that all of the hosts under this Airbnb platform are reporting.
A staggering 83% of hosts booking rooms for the event are first-time hosts. Airbnb revenue will have to be submitted to the state no later than October 2nd. And now we have Ed standing by with a look at the forecast. You have your room all rented out and ready to go?
Let's just say I have my space.
Does it involve a cot and a sleeping bag?
If I'm lucky, I'll get the cot.
All right.
Yeah.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, right?
That's right. You know, we're going to be there, and we'll be broadcasting from Casper the day of the total eclipse. We may have some great viewing. In fact, the sky might even be a little more agreeable here than where that total eclipse goes through the Casper area. This morning, a beautiful shot, great colors with the first interstate ICAM, but it also shows those dry conditions, as we'll be talking about fire risk increasing over the next couple of days. We're at 54 at the Billings Airport, a southwest breeze at 14. The pressure rising, a high pressure area building in, allowing us to warm up here as we get through the day. Readings around the region are as cool as 40 right now in Butte, 41 in Kalispell, 54 in Miles City and Glendive this morning, 55 in Glasgow, 56 down in Cody and also towards Williston, North Dakota. But cooler, 45 for our friends over in Livingston. Sheridan, you're reporting 48 a couple of minutes ago, 51 down in New Orleans, and then 46 over towards Bozeman. Now we have fire weather conditions setting up for us today here as we start looking into north central Montana. Periods of wind, low humidity, and then temperatures warming up about 85 to 90 degrees will increase the fire risks through this portion of the state today. That includes Lewistown, up towards Havre, Shelby, Malta, at least right on the borderline there as far as Malta is going, and then down the east slopes of the Rockies down towards Helena and Bozeman. Tomorrow, we're going to focus more on the lighter shaded areas where we have a watch into effect, meaning the conditions are right for all of these conditions with the wind to shift over into eastern Montana tomorrow afternoon. So our satellite radar mix for today shows this vigorous storm system. There's the potential for some strong to severe storms here around Omaha, continuing to move off towards the Ohio Valley throughout the day today, but clearer skies and sunshine across much of the Rocky Mountain west. Temperatures will be mainly in the 80s today with sunshine, just a few clouds, a light breeze. The winds will kick up a little bit as this disturbance starts to move through north central Montana, and that's the reason for the fire weather conditions there today. Tomorrow, this disturbance shifts down through the Billings area early in the day, and breezy conditions across the eastern plains will follow with some of that wind cutting through during the afternoon. The blue arrow showing you that later on in the day. The winds aren't going to be super strong, but with the low humidity and the hotter temperatures, it does increase that fire risk somewhat. The warmest day will likely be on Friday. The winds will shut down a little bit, and the temperatures have their best chance of hitting 90 degrees in the Billings area Friday afternoon. But really, for the next several days, 85 to around 90 seems to be the story. Here's how things look for us then. Today we'll look for temperatures to be mainly in the 80s region-wide. The fire conditions there in the shaded regions, 70s in the higher elevations. For southern Montana, northern Wyoming, looking at mainly the 80s for today, and a few isolated storms could roll off the mountains. They're certainly not going to rule that out for later in the day. Overnight temperatures slip down into the 50s to 60s, pretty close to where we've been this morning. And tomorrow the temperatures are similar with that disturbance slipping through the region. We'll still be in the 80s to around 90, but we're going to add a little more wind into the mix for later on in the day. Here's our Billings extended forecast. Temperatures, perhaps the warmest on Friday, could back down a little bit on Saturday afternoon. Generally dry conditions, just that bit of wind.